The sun has a mysterious heartbeat, and we may finally know why. Now, we are in the solar maximum, as we know. The sun has solar cycles every 11 years, but this solar cycle has been very active. In just a few days, we've seen a tremendous number of X flares. Now, the heartbeat of the sun is a complex multirhythmic affair, beating in different ways according to various periodicities. We don't know what drives many of the solar heartbeats, but new findings revive and strengthen the link with the planets of the solar system. The sun's 11-year activity cycle, known as the Schwabe cycle, can be at least partially explained by a gravitational interaction between the sun and Venus, Earth and Jupiter, and new research suggests. Could this also have anything to do with the planetary alignment that we've been seeing recently? There are likely other driving forces to play too, but the controversial planetary hypothesis is, as it is known, is too neatly in sync with Schwabe cycles to be discounted. According to the team of researchers behind the new study led by Frank Stefani, physicist at the Helmholtz Zentrum Dresden-Rossendorf lab in Germany. The sun's activity, they have found, is mostly internally driven, but external influences may play a role too. Stephanie said, you can think of it like a gigantic dynamo. While this solar dynamo generates an approximately 11-year activity cycle in its own right, we think the planet's influence then intervenes in the workings of this dynamo, repeatedly giving it a little push and thus forcing the unusually stable 11.07-year rhythm on the sun. Roughly every 11 years or so, the sun undergoes a dramatic series of transformations as its activity level fluctuates. At solar minimum, it displays the least activity. Then it gradually ramps up over the next few years. This manifests as an increase in sunspots, solar flares, and coronal mass ejections until the peak known as a solar maximum. We are close to solar maximum now, by the way. At solar maximum, the sun's poles reverse their polarity and activity subsides over several years to the next solar minimum before ramping up again to another maximum and another pole reversal. This is the Schwabe cycle, and it repeats every 11 years or so, although there is a little bit of variation in the length of each cycle. Where do the planets come in? Well, every 11.07 years, around the time of the solar minimum, Venus, Earth, and Jupiter form a line. Now, we have a planetary alignment now. From today up to June 3rd, we'll be able to see them. All the planets are aligned over our solar system except Venus this time. And I did post a video just today on that. You can see it just before this one. So, every 11.07 years, around the time of the solar minimum, Venus, Earth, and Jupiter form a line, briefly increasing their gravitational pull on the sun in one direction. So you see, the planets can pull on the sun and, of course, affect what's going on with the solar activity, right? So it's only a weak effect, unlikely to impact the solar interior, but it could play a role in shepherding the solar cycles, synchronizing the internal dynamo to regular cycles. Stephanie and his colleagues have been investigating this potential link for some time, and now they believe they've found new evidence in its favor. Giant vortical waves in the sun called Rossby waves, only recently detected for the first time, similar to the Rossby waves on Earth that drive the atmospheric pressure system. Stephanie says, we have now found the underlying physical mechanism. We know how much energy is required to synchronize a dynamo, and we know that this energy can be transferred to the sun by so-called Rossby waves. The great thing is, he says, we can now not only explain the Schwabe cycle and longer solar cycles, but also the shorter Rieger cycles that we had not even considered previously. The Rieger cycles are cycles of 150 to 160 days in flare activity on the sun. And we have also been linked, they have also been linked to the Rossby waves after extensive examination. The researchers found that not only does the Venus-Earth-Jupiter alignment coincide with solar cycles, but the alignments of any two of the three planets has enough of a gravitational pull to activate Rossby waves, and it gets better. These alignments coincide with the Rieger cycles. The team conducted mathematical modeling to verify their findings and found that they could replicate the Schwab and Rieger cycles with their planetary alignments. So you see how the planets can definitely affect the solar cycle and activity of the sun? There was something else too. Every 193 years or so, we're talking about years this time, the strength of the solar magnetic field fluctuates, which the researchers believe is a Susse-de Vries cycle. The Susse-de Vries cycle, they calculate, occurs when the 19.83-year periodic motion of the sun around the solar system's center of gravity lines up with the Hale cycle, a double Schwab cycle of 22.14 years. And this cycle also emerges in the team's model. Isn't that amazing? All this they found out with just now. I mean, with this solar cycle, a maximum and all these activity, the solar activity going on. Of course, we have the alignment after the great American total solar eclipse on April 8. Then we had the alignment of May, and now we're having another alignment. This time without Venus, though. Now, of course, the sun is very big and very complex, so the planets, if they are involved, are only part of the picture, but the coincidences, the researchers say, are just too neat to be only coincidences. We'll probably only be 100% certain when we have more data, Stephanie says. But the arguments in favor of a process locked by the planets are now very strong. Woof, well, at least one thing is clear. There's still a lot of work yet to be done because remember, models are just rough approximations that can easily be wrong. The team's research has been published in Solar Physics, and it's on Science Alert by Michelle Starr. This is fascinating. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.